What's up, guys? It's your boy Christmas here, and this will be another quick little journal entry. As soon as I figure out what I want to call these, I'll just call them that, but for now they're just journal entries for the time being. And today the main topic is going to be about the movie Bring Her Back, since I saw it a few days ago. Liked it quite a bit, but I do have some thoughts about certain aspects of it. But in the meantime, I'm going to talk about what movies I caught in theaters as well as just watched at home since the last video I did. Like I said in the last video, I was at the theater to catch a movie called Friendship with Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd. That was really good. I liked that quite a bit. As good as I thought it was, I think the constant humor the film has from beginning to end kind of worked to its detriment when it was trying to touch down on a lot more serious themes like cancer and depression and everything else. But it was definitely really solid, and I do recommend it, especially if you're in the mood for a good laugh, because holy hell, it's probably one of the funniest movies I watched this year so far. I also was able to catch Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning at long last. I like Dead Reckoning a bit more, but once it gets to that second half or the second third of the film, holy hell, it's a ride. Especially the whole sequence with the submarine and the whole sequence with the biplanes, that was just stellar action. I think the film did have a little bit of a hard time trying to conclude a syndicated franchise, but as it is, The Final Reckoning was still a great movie and definitely a highlight for the year for me. I also watched Bring Her Back in theaters, which I'll get to in a little bit. I think because since I did a video on Talk to Me, I feel like I should do one for Bring Her Back as well. Maybe not as reactionary or comprehensive as the last one I did, but nevertheless, I'm going to be talking about it in this video. But as far as movies I watched at home, I watched a ton of Wes Anderson. I did say I was going to get caught up on his filmography since The Phoenician Scheme is coming out this weekend. I probably won't be seeing it until the following week, most likely, we'll see. But I've watched a ton of Wes Anderson since I watched Bottle Rocket, since I mentioned that in the last video. I dug Rushmore a lot. I thought Rushmore was great. I also dug The Royal Tenenbaums a lot. Originally I was going to watch them all in order, but I ended up just skipping around, and because I really just wanted to watch The Grand Budapest Hotel, and I still got a few more Wes Andersons to go, but it's probably my favorite of his. I'm pretty sure The Grand Budapest Hotel will end up just being like my favorite Wes Anderson movie. If a random individual came up to me and asked me what I think Wes Anderson's best movie is, I'll definitely tell him it's probably The Grand Budapest Hotel. I watched The Darjeeling Limited, which was pretty good, but not great. It felt like a rare miss for Wes Anderson, or at least for me it did. And I watched The Fantastic Mr. Fox, which I dug a lot. That was actually more of a rewatch. I liked it a lot back then. I still like it a lot now. In addition to that, I also started what I'm doing called Criterion Summer, where I'm watching a movie from the Criterion channel a day, or at least trying to get 90 of them watched by the end of August. I kind of cheated a little bit because it turns out that they put the Royal Tenenbaums on the channel as part of this tribute to the late Gene Hackman, rest in peace. But last night I also watched Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Love that a lot. I'm so glad I finally got to sit down and watch a classic Kubrick movie. But apart from all that, the girlfriend and I watched a movie called Chocolate, which I liked quite a bit. It's a kind of a hidden gem for the year 2000, even if it was nominated for Best Picture. I will say it's kind of odd that it did get the nomination, because I personally didn't think it was Best Picture worthy. It's still pretty good, even if like the premise was kind of silly. I get that the chocolate was supposed to be like a metaphor for sin and temptation and whatnot, but it kind of just went a little overboard. And I remember telling my girlfriend, hey, if this literally ends with the mayor of the town eating chocolate and just that being resolved, that whole conflict being resolved from there, I'm just gonna like facepalm a little bit. And that's exactly what happened. Good movie, just not fantastic or anything, but definitely worth a watch for sure. Especially if you're like a big fan of Juliette Binoche, she's wonderful in the film. But that's kind of all I got. I'm gonna try to wrap this up real quick since the girlfriend and I are catching Lilo and Stitch in a little bit. But anyway, yeah, Bring Her Back. So I'm gonna leave my letterbox in the description so you can read what I wrote. I didn't really write a whole lot, honestly, but to summarize, definitely a must-watch for the year for sure. Not just for horror, but kind of also for just film overall. This comes from the Filippo, I'm butchering their last names, brothers, but they're both a pair of YouTubers that made their debut film Talk to Me back in 2022, I think. And it was great when I saw it. I thought Talk to Me was wonderful. I caught it sometime this year when they did an IMAX showing of it as part of A24's IMAX showing dealios that they had going on, and I thought Talk to Me was great. I thought it was invigorating. I think I gave it 4 stars at the time, but letting it marinate some more, I'm willing to bump it up by half, maybe. So of course I was eventually going to catch Bring Her Back, and yeah, I like this quite a bit, just not as much as Talk to Me, but still liked it quite a bit for sure. Similar to Talk to Me, it is not an easy watch. It's definitely brutal and definitely hones in on a lot of body horror and stuff. There's also a lot of subjects like child abuse and grief and everything else, so a little bit of a trigger warning for you if you have not watched this movie yet. Also related, if you have not watched this movie yet, this is your warning that there's going to be spoilers from here on out. Especially since what in particular I want to talk about the movie pertains to the endings. So if you don't want to get spoiled, go watch the movie, come back, and watch the rest of this video. But before you do that, consider liking and subscribing. You don't have to, I'm just sating the algorithm, but you know, it is what it is. So for one thing, I felt that while the movie was solid, it lacked originality in a lot of ways, since as I was watching it, it truly just felt like I was watching an Ari Aster movie. More so in the vein of like Hereditary or Midsummer, more so in the lines of Midsummer when it comes to grief at the loss of your parents, as well as just the whole grieving process as a whole. There was also a lot of stuff about like something of a cult-like nature with the film that was very similar to A Midsummer, but this one is more so scaled down to like Sally Hawkins playing a grieving mother who somehow happens to find a videotape, and this videotape showed her how she can bring her back, her daughter that she lost back. But to go ahead and just get into what I felt that really took me out of the movie, the ending, there was this whole thing about how they needed to sacrifice the adopted daughter so that way she can do the rest of this ritual following this kid named Oliver, how Oliver is supposed to cannibalize the corpse of her daughter whom she had like frozen in a locker or like a freezer or whatever. And basically the whole thing to bring her back, and then as she was about to drown her to death, during the midst of it, she says, "Mom," and then that just triggered something in Sally Hawkins to just stop killing her and then just let her go. And then just basically come to this conclusion that she's never going to bring her daughter back. Which, I mean, that's all well and good, but I don't know, I think it really should have leaned into how dark the film was overall and just full send on the bad ending. And what I mean by that is, like, if you ever played like an RPG or something, there's like multiple different endings, and there's one that's called the bad ending where, you know, main character is evil and just does like a lot of evil shit, and yeah. And I think it really should have just went full in on it, where the daughter should have drowned, and then they do the ritual, and the ritual just doesn't work or something, and yeah. It's likely that probably was the original ending, but then the producers like went and did some test screenings of the film or whatever, and the test audience probably didn't like it. I don't know. I don't know too much about it, so that's just my assumption. It kind of reminds me of the ending that Ridley Scott originally had for Alien, where there was the fourth act and the alien was supposed to just bite Ripley's head off, and the escape pod was supposed to float in space with like her SOS transmission cycling over and over. But the producers didn't like that, and we ended up with the ending that Alien became, since one, I guess the plan was to franchise the Alien series anyways, and B, honestly, I think that just turned out better. But kind of the inverse on that, I think this ending where the adopted daughter just was able to escape that whole scenario, and it was just a good ending overall, where like Sally Hawkins like doesn't go through the ritual and just, I think, presumably gets arrested or whatever. Yeah, that just put like a sour taste in my mouth, in my opinion. Like, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This is one of the ones where like I kind of would have preferred like it went full Ari Aster, because it definitely pulled a lot from Midsummer, and just, you know, had the ending where, spoiler alert if you haven't seen Midsummer, you had the cult just kill everybody and completely indoctrinate Florence Pugh's character. And not like Florence Pugh for some reason snapping out of it and saying, "I'm sorry, I gotta go," and run and somehow escape the cult and alert the authorities and all that. Yeah, that's just me anyways. Another example I'm thinking of, since I recently watched Doctor Strangelove, the Stanley Kubrick movie I was just talking about. Imagine if, like, instead of we get the ending we got with Doctor Strangelove, there's somehow like this ending where the pilot that has the nuclear warhead that they're about to drop just decides, you know what, no, we can't do this, this is bad, and just like turns around and like turns himself into the authorities or something. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it's like, I think if the movie is dark at the beginning, dark at the middle, it should end dark. That's what Ari Aster got right with Midsummer. Or like if it's the inverse, it's like, you know, you're supposed to like have like a positive outcome at the end, like that's the whole tone of the movie. Or, you know, maybe if it's just a positive movie and like the end ends up being like super dark and shit, you know, like, I guess it just depends on the movie, but basically with Bring Her Back, that just didn't work. But apart from that, I think the movie was really good and solid overall, and a must-watch for horror in 2025. Sally Hawkins was great, and it just had a pretty decent cast overall. So if you're looking to see a horror movie, and it's going to definitely make you cringe a little bit at like a lot of the body horror and stuff, but if you don't mind that and you're not like squeamish or of faint of heart or whatever, definitely check this movie out for sure. But yeah, if you watch Bring Her Back, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. And yeah, and what did you watch over the past week? And yeah, that's about it. Just interact and say hello and all that jazz. And feel free to like and subscribe as well. This is your boy Chrysalis here, signing off.